Creative Living, utilizing today's technology with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Sheryl Borden.
I'm so glad you joined me today for Creative Living. We're going to learn how to make a beautiful sunflower centerpiece and demonstrate working with painted quilt blocks. One of my guests is Casey Schwartz, and she's a floral designer and co-owner of Flower Duet in Redondo Beach, California. Casey's going to show how to make a beautiful spring sunflower centerpiece using spider mums, saffron, and of course sunflowers. We'll begin the show with Laura Murray, who is a quilter and designer from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Laura will demonstrate painting quilt blocks to create a one-of-a-kind design, and she has lots of finished items, including a wall hanging, a framed picture, and a jean jacket to illustrate how to do this technique. She'll show how she uses paint stick primer and will share some great tips for successful rubbings and various color strategies. And if you haven't worked with paint sticks before, they create such beautiful colors and they're easy to work with too. Laura's company is Laura Murray Designs. Laura, thank you so much for being with us today. I love the way you work with such bright, intense colors. Your, quote, crayons, or really paint sticks, are beautiful. And the way you create fabric to use in quilting is very unique.
Thank you. I've had a great time.
I bet you do have fun doing this. But you don't do piecing.
Nope, not with this technique. I don't.
Uh-huh.
I figured out how I can just play with color.
Just play with color. I like that. I may take this up then. Let's go ahead and show a few examples. We can even do this on ready-to-wear if we don't want to do quilting.
Yes, these squares are, think of it like making a tiered layer cake. There are three squares of different sizes, layered one on top of another one to create that effect. And those are another sample. Basically what I'm doing is making it a traditional geometric design, which is what quilt blocks are, without doing the piecing. I am painting, which we're going to demonstrate here in a minute, and layering my squares, and some of them get cut into triangles, and voila.
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 These are all beautiful.
And this little quilt is called Quadrille. It is the same concept. There is no piecing at all. Actually, sewing does come into play when I get to the quilting part, and it is quilted in the usual way. But the top is done completely without sewing.
And we're going to see how we make these beautiful colors.
In just a minute.
Oh, this is pretty.
And this one is called Fiesta, and this is a very simple, just layered squares, basically.
Just layered squares.
Yep.
You make it sound so easy.
It is. It is just as simple as putting one square on top of another square. This one is actually a sampler, which I used in my latest quilt pattern. It's called Painted Quilt Blocks Pattern, which Sheryl has there, and that pattern will take you through all the steps required to do those blocks.
And that's a beautiful piece. And if we aren't into quilts or wall hangings, what a clever idea.
Well, you know,
Frame
the
it.
thing about these designs, there's nothing wrong with just framing it and putting it on the wall. You don't have to put it into a quilt.
I would frame my very first one if I ever finished it. Oh, and this is really a cute idea.
You could take those basic blocks and you could fuse them to a handbag as an embellishment.
Well, that's a great idea too. Tote bags of all sizes
Of
are
all
so popular.
sizes, many options available.
Okay, how do we start doing this?
Well, we start doing it by having a stamp. Now, this is a stamp that I've designed called Xanadu. It has all of the necessary shapes to make what you see there.
We've seen.
And you need paint sticks. I have an assortment here of lovely colors.
And they come in like 20-something colors?
Oh, there's 21 beautiful iridescent colors. There's just a few here. I love the sheen
I do too.
Of the iridescent colors. When you work with paint sticks, it's oil paint in stick form. You always need to remove the skin from the surface. You do that by just putting it into a napkin. Pinch,
twist.
and twist. It self-seals as soon as you're finished.
So these just store just like that?
They could. I just keep them in little plastic baskets at home.
That's a good idea.
Then, when I get ready to do the rubbing, the first thing I would do is spray the top of my stamp with a temporary spray adhesive, such
So
as
the fabric doesn't shift while you're...
Yes, on this
I see.
complex detail, if it's shifted, you start over. You're never going to line this thing up again.
I see. Well, that
so
makes
it
sense.
just makes sense to keep it from doing that in the first place. My fabric goes on top.
Now, would you cut your stamp apart or
No,
leave it? Oh,
I do not,
that's
because
easier to work with,
it
isn't
is.
it?
It's exactly right. It's easier to work with, and I want lots of spare parts. This is like playing with Legos. You know,
Oh, okay.
the more you have, the merrier, and the more your options are. Fabric goes on top. I'm going to do just a very quick little rubbing here.
Now, do you always use a cotton, or can you use a
I do for
silk,
this
or
purpose. You
for
could.
this?
Paint sticks will work on any porous surface,
Oh.
but for this purpose, I think a nice, tightly woven cotton is our best bet, and also cheapest.
Oh,
We
okay.
want to use bright colors, lights, mediums, and darks. You can see, like on this, you can see the lime green fabric that was behind it. You can see this was red, and I'm about to do one on black. What I'm going for here in my pieces that I'm painting, I want a variety of lights, mediums, and darks.
Oh, okay.
Contrast. That's really all I care about. It's not a color thing, it's about contrast.
Contrast.
The way it works is that you make sure the fabric doesn't move, you hold it, and you take little short, quick strokes. And you do it multiple times. It's like hitting
Go
it 3
back over
times. Yep.
itself.
Always in one direction. One of the biggest problems people have with using paint sticks is you have to get rid of your instinct to color.
That's
back
what
and
I would,
forth.
I think, first
Everyone
do.
does, because we have muscle memory from when we did when we first learned how to color. Here, you never want to go back and forth. It moves the fabric, and that is a bad thing.
Oh.
So
you're
I
going-
can go right over the top. I can create these multicolored effects like this. And I could keep going with this, but this should
You could
suffice.
put pink and purple and whatever
I
you
could do
wanted to.
just one color, which is what you're seeing here.
Oh,
That's just one
that would
color.
be easy to start
it's
with.
light gold on
The red
on
fabric.
red. It's very effective. My next step would be then to take these pieces.
Oh, this is what you just would have
It's
finished.
between two, I'm using Light Steamacine 2 here, which is this product. It's pressure sensitive. It's got a temporary stick feature, which comes in very handy during the assembly process. And when I fuse them,
You're turning it over, aren't
I'm
you?
turning it over because what I want is to be able to see that this web has actually melted. It just takes a few seconds.
changes colors.
And it changes color. That way I am not cutting and finding out that something didn't get
Didn't stick.
melted
Yeah.
the first time through.
And you use a hot, dry iron, no steam.
Hot, dry iron. I remove the top sheet. And then, important thing to notice about this is when I cut these out, I am leaving a little narrow edge of color.
Oh,
I'm not cutting right on the line. I am leaving this little narrow edge. It's about a 16th inch of a...
and why do you do that?
I do that because it gives me color separation for the next step.
Oh, that's
Otherwise,
a good point.
it always smooshes together then. So we'll just
we
get
can-
this out of the way, and I'm going to move to my little sample here. And I'm going to build a basic block.
And I noticed, I will comment just briefly, you can go ahead and start working with this fairly soon, but you really, after you fuse it, do you need to let it set at that point, or are you ready to go?
I like to wait about 24 hours before I put the fusible web on. As a
Okay,
practical
wait
matter, I don't
24
like it
hours.
coming off on my
Sure.
hands. I could do it right away, but there is
But
a...
it's not messy to work with. It doesn't
well,
smear.
it will.
Oh,
Yes.
does it?
You do this enough, and yes, paint sticks will. When you do this, you want to cover your work surface with
Okay.
plastic. It will get on your hands. It will get on your clothes and the floor. So
I see. Okay. Well, thanks for the warning.
It's not liquid, but those little bits of skin will attach themselves.
Okay.
All over the
That's
place.
good to know.
Yes. So here, then, I'm going to, this is I call this my set of 4. What I'm working with is a 1 3/4 inch block, and there's a set of 4 here. And you can see this little narrow edge.
Yes.
So this is back to the cake analogy, this is the bottom of my cake, my bottom layer. My second layer, then, I would take a 2.5 inch stamp, which would be the size that I did the little demo on. back there. It would be one of these. And it would go right on top. I would center it on top, I remove the paper, and I can just stick it right on.
And it's just temporary at this point.
It's temporary at this point. But if I look at this and decide, don't like those colors,
or something.
I can pick something else. Then the top of my basic block is another small block. This comes from a different set, but it's also a 1 3/4 inch stamp. I could have done it. I could have done this. I could have used this, or I could have used one of these as well. So now I have a basic block, which looks just like this. And this, then, if we go to my little sample here, here is, I haven't fused those down. I do have some orientation marks, so I know where the centers are of each side. And my shape, you start always in the middle like this.
And I see why you leave that little 1/16 of an inch. It's this color separation.
Now,
that's amazing.
I could choose to push these together and not leave the gap, but I left the gap here, and you can see the black fabric. The next step, if I wanted to do a medium-sized block, which you're seeing here, is I would find,
smaller.
I would make another basic block, and I would cut it into 4 triangles. Because if just cut with your rotary cutter,
edge to edge.
Edge to edge, and voila, you have little triangles. And they sit right here. And that makes a basic block. It's as easy as that.
So this size, and then it can go to this size, or even larger if you want.
It can become larger, which
this
is
one's
the
this
middle.
one.
And we do that by having 2 blocks that are identical that you see right here. And you cut them just once, and this will make a large triangle.
Or large triangle.
There are some interesting permutations you can do of this. For example, you can just flip these around and leave negative space and get, but see how different these all are based on the, the stamp designs you're using, the colors you use.
Now, did you just adhere this to the background, or did you? Is it sewn?
Well, I'm not precise enough to be able to layer these on one piece of hand-dyed fabric. So I do my blocks, and then I could either put the spray adhesive and position them that way and pin them, or I could actually put another fusible on the back of that and then position them so everything is nice and even. So that's how you can do what appears to be very complicated piecing.
It does look complicated
without piecing or sewing a single stitch.
What a great technique.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yep, you're very welcome.
You know, Casey, I think there's nothing better than to either have the florist deliver you a beautiful centerpiece to your work, and then you take it home and use it, or bring it to your house. And I think you just appreciate the overall beauty. But when I see you put these together, I realize how many different elements are involved.
That's so true, and we're kind of going on a monochromatic theme this time with the flowers that we picked. But you want to pick flowers that have a similar vase life, that they'll last about the same amount of time. And if you're not sure how to go with color, some people are afraid it does know what goes with what, but you know what, yellow, just go with all yellow, or go with all pinks, or all reds. Monochromatic.
Can't
and
go
you
wrong.
can't go wrong. And maybe add a little bit of something. So we have a little bit today of this little splash of orange, which are called safflower. And it just punches it up a little bit, so it's not just too much yellow. And of course, with the sunflowers that we're using, and then these mini mums that are mimicking them almost, we've got that nice dark center too that sort of takes away the all yellow look.
Well, and I think fall is such a wonderful time to do floral arrangements, because I love all the fall colors.
I do too.
And
They're
they
very
make such
rich.
pretty arrangements. Okay, so
All right.
this is what we'll end with, hopefully.
Yes.
And how do we get started?
This is our clean slate we're going to start with, and it's actually really simple. We've got a paper mache container which can be popped into a basket or into maybe a lovely pot that you might have that has a hole in it that you wouldn't be able to put flowers in. So I wanted to show this paper mache. It's sometimes not that glamorous on its own, but once you have flowers in it, it sort of disappears.
Right, and it kind of goes with it, because it's the green color.
The green goes with it, but we use these a lot for liners for baskets, because baskets can't hold water. So our rule is watertight and inexpensive, because we want to spend the money on the flowers.
Oh, you bet.
Right. So what we're going to do today, we're going to build this base on all of our elements. So we're going to start with the sunflowers because we have most of those. They're big flowers.
They're big.
And they're going to be our main focal point anyway. So we're going to place those around first and get our shape of our centerpiece. And when you're working with flowers like those, you don't want to go too high with them. We just want to make a nice round shape. We're going to start with that. And we're using floral foam, which is a great medium. It's already been soaked and it's cut to size in here. And we soak a whole brick and then cut it to size. And then we save what we didn't use for another arrangement a little bit later on. So we're going to start with our sunflowers.
Is it usually the case that you start with the biggest?
Yes, because especially if you've got flowers like hydrangea or peonies, usually the flowers that have one bloom at the end of the stem are called focal flowers or face flowers, and those are usually your more expensive ones, and that you want them to be showcased. So you want to place those first around so that you know they're going to be seen, and then you fill in with everything else. So that's how we're going to do it today. And so I'm looking for some of our bigger ones here, and these are really still going to be opening a little bit as they go along, because we want some of our bigger ones on the outside, and then some of our smaller ones more on the inside.
Toward the center.
Right. So I think this one's a good candidate.
That's a pretty one.
And I don't want to go too high because that would be silly. So we want to take most of it off, actually. I'm going to go to about here, and then I'm just going to place into the foam
on the
like
side.
so, on the side. And we're just going to sort of build around that side. I think he might still be a little bit on the long side. I'm going to cut a bit more off and go back in the same hole there.
And
that's
that
a better
foam is
shape.
so good, it just
It
holds
is.
those
It
flowers.
is so nice. So we're just going to go and trim and basically get our four corners sort of situated here. And then once I get this moving, we'll add a few more.
And by trimming your
around.
foam, it just created that pattern for where you're putting these
It
flowers.
did, because it's easier to go, yes, into a flat side than a little pointy end there. So that's our beginnings, just to get our basics, and that's we know how our shape is going to go. But we have 10 of these, so here's another one here. So I might put this one coming up like that, and then we're going to do a couple coming out there. So let me cut a couple for you there. Maybe these guys. Great. And turn that, and you can put that one right in there. And I'll put this one in here. And already it's coming together. And put that one straight up in the middle, facing out that way. Yep. And I'll do one over here, facing out that way.
Oh, I see.
All right, so we
That
have
filled
this
it in.
great little shape already
Now, I would
going
call
there.
that finished right there.
That could be finished already, but we're going to add more to it. And at this point, we're going to add some of our greenery. And you can use any greenery. Sometimes greenery you get from the garden that you have out back, some bushes, or they sell greenery sometimes at the florist supply store. What I love is using rosemary, because so many flowers don't really have a scent anymore, because they are commercially grown, and they're grown for their longevity, for their color, pest resistance. So sometimes the scent goes away.
Fragrance.
So sometimes adding a scent would be really fun. So something like rosemary, and as you're cleaning it, you're going to be pulling the little branches off there, and you're just going to poke this all around, and we're just going to sort of poke in wherever there's anything holes missing. So I'm going to prep these for you, and just go ahead and spin it around and add to it. You can add some more, and we can go all over the place. That one there. And they're a little bit on the long side, so we're just going to trim the pieces that we need and place those. There we go.
This is a nice thick one.
Oops. Smells like we're cooking.
I know it. I love to smell rosemary.
I do too. Rosemary's got lovely properties, and it also is long lasting, so it does well in the floral foam as well.
Oh,
Great.
That was an interesting point
stick
you
this
made
one
that
right
I'd
in
not
here?
thought about, because I have received arrangements before, and sometimes one flower will just die the next
Yes.
day. And the others look pretty, and so of course you can remove it, but wouldn't it be nice to have the whole arrangement last about the same amount of time?
I agree. And this combination should do just that. Now these look like an interesting flower because they're
thought
all
it was a
they're-
tulip.
I know, they're still netted, but these are called spider mums, and I'll unleash them. Well, you can see them here. And what happens is if they're packaged like that, all the petals get all crossed together, and you try to pull them apart, and the petals all go flying. So it's best to buy these when they're still netted like this.
I see.
So for these, one stem, again, they are considered a face flower. We're only using 5 in here, and they're going to go in a little bit deeper as we have there tucked in to hide some of the floral foam and to not be so showy, because we really are about the sunflowers. So I'm going to cut one and show you, and we're just going to pop it in here with the netting still on.
Oh, leave the netting
Leave
on.
the netting on. And then once you get it there, you hold it where it is, and then you release the netting, and you fluff
Oh, how
out the flower.
pretty.
So I'll give you some of these to add in there. So anywhere
Okay,
where you
we're
see
doing 5.
Yep, we're doing 5. So you can just go right around. Good.
That is, it's almost like magic when they open up.
I think I'll do one down here.
Okay.
And maybe,
Right
yeah,
over
right
there.
over there. Yeah, I put one there. That's perfect. Great. All right. It's coming together.
Oh, I love those
And those will
spider
continue
mums.
to open too. And so they're still really fresh, and so they'll continue to open and spread their wings, so to speak. Then we have, these are considered spray flowers or cluster flowers. And what these do, you have one stem, and it's extraordinary, but on one stem, get them untangled, you have all of these blooms on there. And so how these work is you cut away all the little mini branches and use them individually. Takes
And
a
these
little
are
time.
filler?
This is filler flower, and it takes a little bit of time to place them all, but actually it's quite fun. And then you just sort of poke them all around. You can cluster them together just to mimic how they grow, or you can just you know, put one here and there. So what we do though, we've already cut the bulk of them off, but we do need to give them a quick little trim before we pop them in there.
At an
So
angle.
At
So
an
we want to
angle.
go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you some of these to do that, and give these guys just a little trim, and you can go. They can stick a little bit higher just because they're a little fuller.
I went to the same hole as an, oh, well. That one keeps jumping out.
And then as we place
Now,
these
I was going to
in,
ask you like this. These are just perfect together.
you
Can we go ahead
you can.
and use
It might
that?
be a little tall, and then you'd have to do it a little trim.
So you
but
wouldn't-
I would
okay.
probably cut them apart.
Oh, okay. Oh,
We're just going to
my
place these around. Give them another trim. If they're really small buds, then they can sort of be in the middle and stick a little bit higher because they're not so large. And then you want to put some low ones. And when you're doing an all-around arrangement, it's really handy to have a lazy Susan to put it on and
Like
spin
for
it
cake
around.
decorating or
Yes.
something, that
yeah,
would
my
be
dad
perfect.
made one for Kit and me and Mom, so it's really fun to have that, to spin it around. Because you're going to be having it being seen from all angles, and so you want to
And
be
you
sure.
need to be able to see it.
Yes. And sometimes get low and see what might be missing, and just slide your little guys right in there. It's filling up nicely.
It is.
It's hard when you
I
start
wouldn't
with
have
blank
thought
canvas
that
sometimes.
it would have held this many flowers.
Well, that's the other thing about floral foam. It is very forgiving in that way that you can just keep impaling the stems in it and it'll seem to manage. But you do have to remember to add water later on.
Oh,
All right, I think we're good with those. Let's add
Okay,
a little bit
let's
of the
add the-
safflower before we run out of room. And safflower is great. It looks like saffron, which is that color, but it is not the spice. But it comes also
It's
like
a cluster.
A cluster. So what you want to do is just trim away the individual stems again, and we slide away the greenery to make it easier, and then we just pop those in there too.
and it's got the yellow. This one's almost all yellow.
Yes.
But some of them just add that little touch, just a little.
little bit
And
of
this one
orange
will
there.
open.
That one will still, and they do indeed still open. I'll give you those two, and then just move them around and add them where they need it. Get a few more that are a little bit
Oh, I love
more
it when
orangey.
the yellow is showing.
And this one's cute.
I mean, the orange is showing.
This is cute. It's got a little bud attached, so we can
Oh,
stick
yeah.
that one right in there. And again, just
looking
so
good.
fun. Here's another orange one, and one more little orange one over here. That's beautiful.
I think we need one right in. This one was just a bud. So
There you
yeah,
go.
right
There
in
you are then.
Oh, love it.
That looks great.
Oh, it is prettier than when I wanted you to stop originally.
And it's hard too to stop, but with this kind of arrangement, eventually you have to stop because you run out of room.
Run out of room. Well, these are beautiful, and of course anyone would appreciate getting one, or if you made one for your own home. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. Next time on Creative Living, we'll begin a new series of shows featuring lots of interesting guests who are experts in different areas. I also want to remind you to sign up for our free Creative Living newsletter that comes out the first part of each month. Just go to our website at kenw.org, O-R-G, and provide us with your email address. I do want to thank you for letting us be a part of your television viewing these last few months, and remember to let your local public television station know that you appreciate them carrying Creative Living. And just a quick reminder that you can get the instructions, patterns, and recipes for most of the guests who've been on our show this series by going to our website and clicking on the booklet section. You can download the entire 6600 series booklet or just the sections you're most interested in. And finally, if you ever have comments or suggestions or ideas for shows, you can email me at cheryl.borden@enmu.edu. I'd also like to ask you to become a fan of Creative Living on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and in the search window type in Creative Living with Sheryl Borden. Thanks so much. I hope you'll plan to join me next time for Creative Living.
We are very pleased to offer a new booklet that accompanies this series of Creative Living. This booklet is titled the 6600 Series, and it features a wonderful collection of ideas and information, and it's available free of charge on our website. Posted as a PDF file, you can simply download the entire booklet, or just the segments you're most interested in. As with all of the Creative Living booklets, you'll find information on foods and nutrition, clothing and fashion, health and beauty, home decorating, and much more. For your copy of this booklet, go to our website at KENW.org and then click on Creative Living. Scroll down to the booklet section and you can click on this booklet or any of the other booklets we have available online. Once again, just go to KENW.org, click on Creative Living, and download the booklet titled the 6600 Series. We also want to encourage you to sign up for our free e-newsletter. Just click on the Sign Up Now button and input your email address. That's all there is to it. You'll enjoy reading an up-to-date newsletter filled with interesting topics and information. Thank you.